What is going on, everybody? This is James Krasnerick here, back for another live round of Real Steel Sports on Spreaker Web Radio. Today, one of the arch rivals of my team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, went ahead and signed their quarterback, Andy Dalton, to a 6-year contract extension worth $115 million. Now, let's look at where Andy Dalton ranks amongst the quarterbacks he came into the league with. The 2011 draft class, which has been one of the more talented draft class that we've had in the last 15 to 20 years. Let's go ahead and analyze where he ranks in comparison to his peers. In terms of completions, he is easily number one with over 100 more completions than the next closest, Cam Newton. He has almost 200 more completions than Cam Newton. He has just over 60 yards more passing. He has 80 touchdowns and by far the most interceptions at 49. Looking at Andy Dalton's career and looking at the extension, he was due to be paid. And I don't have my opinion on his contract extension. I'll give it to you at a different time. But sitting here and thinking about his contract and his situation with the Bengals, he's gotten into the playoffs 3 years in a row. They've won the division in 2013. When you stop and think about it, he was due to be paid. But do I personally believe that Andy Dalton is worth as much money as a guy like a Joe Flacco, a Drew Brees, or an Aaron Rodgers? And the answer to that is no. Those are the quarterbacks of the last years that have gotten the biggest paydays. You look at Rodgers, look at Brees, you look at Flacco. What do all three of them have in common? A Super Bowl MVP. They also have been more consistent in the postseason aside from the Super Bowl. Flacco's been to an AFC title game and he's won a Super Bowl. Rodgers has won a Super Bowl and has won other playoff games. And what I also think needs to be taken into account here is that Drew Brees, the Super Bowl MVP quarterback, lost another NFC title game in 2006, even though it was forever ago. And let's not also forget the fact that, he's thrown for 5,000 yards on more than one occasion. Is Andy Dalton in that breath? And the answer to that would be, oh my God, no. The funny thing is that the Bengals' hands were kind of tied with this. Because if you look at the specifics of Andy Dalton's current contract, he made $612,000 in 2009. Now I'm going to sporttrack.com. and looking at his salary. I'm trying to find the link so I can detail, what his original contract was that he signed. He signed a 4-year, $5.2 million contract. So this is the final year of his contract. Cincinnati really did not have any choice but to sign him to a contract like this. They really didn't. Their hands were strapped. And here's the reason why their hands were strapped. Because when you stop and think about it, if Dalton doesn't get a deal, he's leaving. He doesn't get a deal, he's out the door. He gets a deal, he'll stay. Because, truth be told, I can think he's probably thinking there are probably other teams he'd rather play for than the Cincinnati Bengals. But besides that, if you seriously stop and think about it, the idea of giving him I believe it was a $115 million contract, is absolutely ridiculous. It really is ridiculous because you look at his career numbers. Let's look at him real quick. He's completed just under 61% of his passes for 1,360 yards, 80 touchdowns, 49 picks. Career pass rating is 85.7. Not bad. Not bad. Let's look at his game logs in the postseason. His career record in the postseason is 0-3. He's completing just short of 57% of his passes. He's thrown 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. Not the kind of guy you give a huge extension to. Hell, Joe Flacco didn't even get his extension until after he won a Super Bowl. It's just absurd to think that he gets that kind of contract, and there are other guys that do deserve it that don't. I mean, I've seen the guy play against the Steelers. I've seen him play in the postseason. He doesn't play well. In the big games, he doesn't show up. He'll go out there and throw 4 or 5 touchdowns a game, and you think he's a great quarterback, and he'll think, oh, he's arrived. But then again, he'll struggle for the next month. There's no, honestly, if Andy Dalton didn't have A.J. Green, I think the Bengals would have cut him after this season because he wouldn't have put up near the numbers that he did. If you look at A.J. Green, as I said, he's thrown 80 touchdowns in his career, Andy Dalton has. He's got 29 career touchdowns. So you could basically cut Andy Dalton's touchdown total by more than a third if you took away A.J. Green. So that would mean he's only thrown 51 touchdowns in his career minus the 29 A.J. Green's caught. Yeah, he's an average quarterback at best without A.J. Green. So you could really look for it and say Green's pretty much saved his career at this point. But in all honesty, Dalton's a good quarterback. He's a solid quarterback. I mean, if you were to look at the current NFL starting quarterbacks, you look at, I'm going to go through the list of guys that I know he's better than. You've got A.J. Manuel, we've got Geno Smith. He's definitely better than Brian Hoyer, better than Fitzpatrick, better than Chad Henne, better than Jake Locker. But you can kind of see where I'm going with this, is that there are plenty of quarterbacks, mostly AFC, that are not as good as Andy Dalton. And when you stop and think about it, he deserved a contract extension. But if seriously, $115 million over 6 years, that's almost $20 million a year. Honestly, I can only think of a couple of quarterbacks in this league that would be worthy of that. Brady, Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Rodgers, Breeze. Those are the only guys I think that'd be worthy of that. So when a guy like that, who really has done almost nothing his whole career except be consistent in the regular season and suck in the playoffs, gets that kind of extension, makes you scratch your head. If you look at other quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls that haven't been paid yet, I mean, or even done better in the playoffs, look this way. Jay Cutler makes so much less, and he's been to the NFC Championship game. You look at Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's making less, and he's been to an NFC Championship game as well. I mean, Roethlisberger right now is scheduled to make a lot less. And Ben has 2 Super Bowls and another Super Bowl appearance. It's just an almost absurd notion to think that Dalton is worth that much money. Honestly, here's what I think the Bengals should have done. I think what they should have done is they should have given him a contract. But then again, in a way, actually, I can't really say that because when you stop and think about it, if they don't get Dalton signed before the season starts, you know he's not going to come back. He's going to be viewed as expendable by the team owners and executives, and he's going to go play somewhere else. In all honesty, the Bengals really did not have much of a choice to do what they did. I would have to say honestly that right now, if the Bengals are looking to try to win playoff games and possibly go to a Super Bowl, they can do it with Dalton, but they're gonna need to fix some things. Number one, they're going to need to get an offensive line that protects him better. I know he wasn't sacked as much in the regular season, but in the playoff game against the Chargers, he got decked a lot. If you look at his receiving core, short of A.J. Green, there's absolutely nobody who's any good. You need to fix that up. Giovanni Bernard can't be the best back you have. You need to get someone better than that. Honestly, other than A.J. Green, Andy Dalton, and Giovanni Bernard, the lack of talent on that offense is kind of disturbing. I mean, their defense is a top 10 defense in this league. You got Geno Atkins, you got Vontaze Burfict, you draft Darqueze Dennard from Michigan State. The Bengals are a good team. But honestly, the Dalton contract extension actually hurts them in two ways. Number one, it proves that the Bengals are desperate trying to keep him because they know that it proves the Bengals also don't know how to draft quarterbacks, because if you look at, aside from Carson Palmer, how successful have the Bengals been historically in drafting quarterbacks? I know they've got Ken Anderson and Boomer Esiason, two borderline candidates for the Hall of Fame. But if you look throughout the history of most of the teams in the NFL, they've drafted quarterbacks that have been incredibly good. I mean, it's ridiculous. The Bengals draft woes. Even nowadays, they don't draft well. But the second reason why is because later on down the road, when key guys on that Bengals team that develop, like Vontaze Burfict, want a big contract, they're not going to be able to afford them, and they're going to lose them in free agency to a team that can't afford them. That's why, in my honest opinion, when thinking and analyzing this move, the Bengals may have saved their ship They may laugh now knowing that they got their guy into wraps, but knowing that they're not going to be able to sign big name free agents or their own players to good contracts to keep them there in the future, they're going to be crying later. Well, everybody, that has just been my opinion on this particular topic. Again, as you heard, I really do feel that Andy Dalton was given way more credit than he deserved with his contract. Basically, they gave him the contract of a Super Bowl winner, and he's never even won a playoff game yet, so go figure that. But then again, it's the Bengals, I mean, the Bengals have been good the last few years, reaching the playoffs in 2009, reaching the playoffs in 2011, 12, 13, and being consistently decent team, being a consistently decent team. But this move right here is one that truly mystifies me. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that, and take care and have a good one, guys.